people of the internet, and welcome to another edition of the Shuwatch podcast. I'm your host, Andres Perez, aka Kaiju Noir, and here with me is someone who has been on the podcast numerous times at this point. You know him from several of the collaborative reviews and podcasts we have done, especially when it came to the history of Godzilla in animation. Give it up for Kaiju novelist slash novel thriller, Give it up for Kaiju novelist, Mr. Matthew Denian.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be back on here, and I write as well as you talk sometimes, it seems. So, with stumbling over everything. But as always, it's a pleasure to be with you guys. I love being on Kaiju Noir's channel, and we have quite a few cool things to talk to you guys about today, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely, because it's been quite a while since the last time you've been on the show. In fact, the last time you were here, we were just starting our Kaiju vs. Cancer ongoing charity project that you and I started, and we just kind of talked about the ins and outs of what the project was going to be like back when we were launching our first t-shirt, which was a big success.
Yes.
And I want to give a huge thank you to everybody who was involved with that, everyone who made their own videos to help us promote it, whether it be people like D-Man1954 or the Omni Viewer, and all the other contributing fans and artists and writers and anyone else who want to help spread the word on our project. It's been a big success. Currently on our Facebook page, I'm going to see how many likes that we have at the moment. About, let's see. Sometimes Facebook can be a bit finicky right at points. Let's see. I believe we've had, I know it was like over 100, I believe. It was.
I think we're...
Oh, yeah, so we're at 290. Wow, so we're almost at 300 likes on the Facebook page.
Yeah, so please continue to spread that to your friends, everybody. We want to get that over 300. It would be great if you could do that post G-Fest, over 300.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And so during this time, we had launched our first t-shirt, which featured Matt Denian's own Atomic Rex alongside Chris Martinez's Dorugon character, and we were originally planning on having another Chris Martinez Matt Denian collaboration, but unfortunately due to our dear friend's health, he was unable to finish the actually he did finish, I believe he did finish the Chimera. It was Chimera versus Triceras, but we have yet to turn that into a shirt, because I think you mentioned that you want to try out showing other characters from other artists, right, or other creators.
Yeah, we wanted to see another Chris doesn't do a tremendous job, but we wanted to feature other artists and as many characters from other creators as we could. So we came up with the Destroy All Cancer shirt, which was our second shirt. It did really well, which was
that's probably my favorite so far.
Yeah, that one was fantastic, and we got over a dozen different characters on there, I want to say.
Oh yeah, totally. Like we had your own character Rock, which we haven't seen in a while, in fully since like the image that Frank Parr did for us. We had Robot God Akamatsu. We had Jeremy Robinson's own Kronos. We had Dorugon once again. We had Omni Viewer Schnazzy Chapeau. My very own Draco Azul. Let's see.
Keith Foster's Kadoja.
Keith Foster's Kadoja, definitely. We had
Zach Cole's Maryugra. We had
your brother's own Thesaurus.
Yes, Thesaurus Rex.
Yeah,
from my brother, the loser. He'll be listening to this, so I'll appreciate that. And
otherwise known as asshole.
Asshole. Tyler's own Durantis, Tyler Souls, who did this shirt, actually. Make sure we give him credit.
Oh, absolutely, and, yeah. He did a fantastic bang-up job.
Yeah, it was tremendous. Frank Parr's King Kaiju was on there.
Kind of serving as like this t-shirt's version of King Ghidorah, because we based the whole thing off of the VHS cover art for the American VHS cover art for Destroy All Monsters.
Right. And it came out fantastic. And with that shirt, combined with the first shirt, we were just shy of raising $1,000 for the kids at St. Jude's Children's Cancer Research Hospital. And now our third shirt is up for the next 19 days. And our third shirt was done by Tom Crone, so it looks really cool. And it is a homage to the Japanese movie poster, which the Omni viewer said it really good, is way better than any posters we got in the U.S. for Rampage. So it features K.H. Kohler's Raiju, my Polar Yeti, and Chris, our friend Chris Nigro's Megadrak, in the place of Lizzie, Ralph, and George.
And all three happen to be literary monsters that came from novelists, right?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, it's a very nice theme. I'm not sure if we. I think you were the one who suggested having these monsters in place of Ralph, Lizzie, and George. Was it your intention of having all three have that novel theme?
Not necessarily. I was just going for characters who looked like Lizzie, Ralph, and George. So K.H. Kohler's Raiju is kind of like a lion composed of fire, right? So was the most mammalian-looking monster we had in our stable. That was quadruped. Polar Yeti from my books, is kind of like a Kong homage, which George is a Kong homage, and they're both stark white. So that seemed like an easy, okay, we'll just put this here. And then Chris's Megadrak looked a lot like Lizzie, actually. It was Chris actually did that book before Rampage came out, but it seemed like a good fit there. So this one looks very cool.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And unlike the first two shirts, we decided to make this one tealish blue, like bluish teal color, to contrast very well with the orange, because orange and teal tend to be like the two most popular colors that a lot of artists, especially people who make movies and movie posters, definitely like to go for that color scheme. And it was a nice break from the usual black shirts.
Yes, which has been really cool. I should say really neat, but not so cool in the summer, I've noticed, because I've been sporting mine all over the place, and it's hot and black, so the teal was nice. We've also been getting better with each shirt, I feel like, Andres, where the first one took us forever to get it correctly. Oh,
yeah.
And then this one we got done in a weekend, and we've even been able to figure out how to play around with having the letters kind of wrap around and stuff like that. So please check this shirt out. And please, it's only $25 to order one. All proceeds go to St. Jude. If you don't want a shirt for yourself, you can, of course, purchase a shirt. We'll repost the address on the Facebook page for Kaiju vs. Cancer, where you can ship a shirt to a kid in the hospital, which I can't tell you guys how happy those kids are. I do get pictures sent to me from them, but I can't post them for HIPAA reasons and obvious other reasons. But it is extremely heartwarming to see our characters and the money that you guys spend, bringing joy to these kids who are facing a real life monster, as we said before.
Oh yeah, definitely. And let's see. In other news, while we don't have plans, any concrete plans yet for the next shirt that we have planned so far, we actually have another big Kaiju vs. Cancer project coming up, which is actually brought to us by Denny Roth. Now, Denny Roth, he is another independent artist. He is definitely mostly known for his kaiju work that he sells his kaiju artwork that he sells at a lot of several conventions, and he is also the one of the co-creators of the webcomic series Martial Star, which is like this anime-inspired sci-fi western series. So he went out of his way to create 3 special prints. I believe one of them was a commission by one of our followers. I'm actually someone who was like a dedicated fan of yours, Greg Nunman, I think.
Yeah, Greg Nunman and Sam Eiler, I think they put together to get that commission done.
Right.
Denny did a tremendous job drawing Chimera. I love the way Denny draws my Chimera character, because for people who don't know, Denny has a background in paleontology, so he really gets how creatures would look. And I think the other creature is actually Sam's original creation, kind of fighting Chimera. So it came out really, really well. I told Danny he's going to G-Fest to sell them. I said, please keep at least a couple aside for me. I will definitely pay for them. The money will go to the kids. I just want them to post all around the place because they look fantastic. And then Denny did...
Go ahead.
Obviously, Denny did one of his own characters as well, correct? Chris Starr, right. Chris Starr, who also appeared in the previous shirt.
Oh, yes, that was another one. So the first print was... Chimera versus Atlantean, appearing like they're fighting in the middle of the ocean, which is really cool.
Yes.
The second print that he made is Christar with an ice cream truck, actually at St. Jude's Children's Hospital Research Hospital,
Yes.
providing ice cream to all of the kids at the hospital, which is very sweet, very tender. It's like a very nice emotion, very positive, warming imagery right there. And the second one is something that Denny made up all on his own, where he created a brand new character called the Kaiju Matador. And so here he is, like, posing valiantly with his sword up in the air. Meanwhile, there's a giant reptilian-like monster right behind him with a lot of rose petals being thrown at the Kaiju Matador in celebration of either his recent accomplishment or his upcoming match with said beast.
It looks fantastic either way.
Oh, yeah.
No matter how you look at it, it was fantastic. Denny did a great job. He's a tremendous artist. I'm sure a lot of you fans know him. He's been on the show a couple times, right?
You're right.
So, yes, he'll be selling those at G-Fest. And if you buy one of those prints from Denny, all of the proceeds are going to Kaiju versus Cancer. So please stop by at G-Fest and see Denny. Purchase one of those prints, and of course, buy something else from him too, because you just won't be disappointed with anything you buy from him.
Right. For instance, not only is he going to be selling issues, like the first two issues of his, or the first two chapters of his webcomic series, Martial Star, but he'll also be selling an exclusive print of kind of like a tribute to Godzilla vs. Biollante in celebration of the fact that one or two of the actors are going to be at this year's G-Fest. And it's all his prints that he made for G-Fest look great. And even though Matt and I will unfortunately not be at this year's G-Fest, we feel like the presence of Kaiju vs. Cancer is more than enough to make us happy, and we hope that you will continue to support us. Not even if it's not in person, you'll support us, our project through your kindness towards Denny's offerings.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. As well as the rest of the collaborators who will be there at G-Fest selling their own projects. It'd be great if you were to support any one of them if you so happen to be interested by what they have to offer.
Right. Frank Parr will be there. I believe Keith Foster will be there.
Yes.
But anyway, let's be honest. Like, Denny's cooler than me and you, right? Let's just throw it out there for people. As much as we
don't know. You see, Sasquatches and humans, they have different standards when it comes to coolness.
Yeah, but that's what makes him cooler, is the Sasquatchiness.
Got a point there. Okay, and speaking of collaborations, so you just mentioned that Frank Parr is going to be there, and it's interesting that you mentioned it because you and him were actually working on a new crossover that has nothing to do with the charity, but rather it is like a crossover between two of your most popular works, or notable works, right?
Yes, that was a good segue. Yes, Frank and I, and Wayne Smith, who also works with Frank, have been working on a comic of Arrakis, who is Frank and Wayne's character from their Kaiju-verse comic book series, and My Atomic Rex. I know I've mentioned it many times on your podcast that we've been working on it, so it's been a long time coming, but it's finally complete. Frank and Wayne Smith will be selling it at G-Fest. It'll be out in digital format later this week. I'll have copies, so if you want me to sign a copy, please email me, and I'll be happy to send it out to you, and you can pay me through PayPal, nice and easy. And it will be 115 pages, and it really came together well. Frank did a tremendous job with the artwork. For anybody who's ever seen, Frank does a lot of the title cards when I'm on your show, right?
Yes.
The one with Draco's Little Surrounded by All My Monsters, and he also did the one that I love is the one we do for our noir reviews, where it's got
Draco and Atomic Rex dressed up in like noirish Humphrey Bogart style trench coats and fedoras.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So Frank and Wayne and I did this, and it came together really well. And Wayne Smith, who is the other co-creator with Arrakis, was very insistent that this not be a crossover where it's just kind of like non-continuity and it happens and everybody forgets about it. He said, like, I really want this to mean something. I really want this to be impactful on both of our universes. So for Araka stories going forward, this will have a huge impact. And for me, the story actually takes place between the second Atomic Rex book, Wrath of the Polar Yeti, and the third one, Conquest of Chimera. Now, as I've recently learned, there's a difference between a standalone and a sequel, so you don't need to have read the other books to enjoy this. But if you are a fan of mine and a follower, this will pick up right where Atomic Rex, Wrath of the Polar Yeti leaves off, like on the last page is where this story starts. And then the last page of this comic will be where Atomic Rex Conquest of Chimera picks up. So it'll be a nice little companion piece to kind of drop in there. And it's really cool to see Atomic Rex, from my perspective, as a comic book, which I didn't think would ever come to fruition, but I'm so thrilled to have worked with Frank and Wayne on it. Wayne had some really good input too. And I do want to give a shout out to Wayne's wife, Barbie, who did all of the stuff behind the scenes that us guys are just not smart enough to do, like setting up the printing and, making sure that we put numbers on pages and all that other kind of crazy stuff. So she was really like the woman behind all three of us, if you will, putting it together.
Sounds great. Now, I remember, I think it was potentially around the time I met you, and when I was actually looking up several of your work, I noticed that Frank Parr's illustrations of your characters always had like a constant presence anytime I would look up your name online. Now, was Frank Parr the first person to ever bring your characters to life through his art?
Yes, he was. I mean, aside from the covers that Severed Press would do,
right. Frank
was the first one. In fact, Frank, he just liked the concept of some of the characters, Chimera in particular, and he got in touch with me with like, hey, I just wanted to draw this because I liked the idea of this character. And it was kind of from there that Frank and I became friends, and we started talking, and he did a contribution for the G-Fantas versus Gas Monsters, where it was an actual comic in the digital version of that, which is free on Smashwords for anybody who wants to go check it out, to download. And then we were kind of talking, and I was like, yeah, man, if you keep doing artwork for me, sooner or later, people are going to say, like, when are we going to see your crossover? And it was Frank's idea. He said, well, let's do it then. So I was like, okay, yeah. So, you're the first guy to kind of draw my characters. And if you're interested in doing this, let's make this happen. So it took a little bit because crossovers are not the easiest thing to do because we really wanted to make sure it fit into everybody's continuity.
Right. And you don't want to have one side overwhelm or overpower the other side or overshadow the other side.
Right, overshadow the other side is a good way to put it. So this will actually be 2 volumes now. We intended it to be one, and the story, to make it fair for everybody, came into 2 volumes. So there will be volume 1, volume 2. It's a well balanced between both stories, and we didn't get it in volume 1 because we ran out of space, but I talked to J.D. Lees and to our good friend Chris Martinez, and they both agreed that we could insert Frank's G-Fantas versus Arrakis comic into the back of one of the issues, or at least into the digital, as well as Chris gave us full permission to put the fantastic short he did of Duragon versus Atomic Rex into the back of one of these as well.
Okay, that's good. That's a nice way to pad out the second. Are you putting this at the end of the first volume or second volume?
It'll be at the end of the second volume. We thought about doing. Yeah, we wanted to do 1 and 1 maybe at first, like put the Arrakis G-Fantas in the issue 1 and then the Atomic Rex Duragon in issue 2. But honestly, just with G-Fest coming up, it was like we really couldn't go back and squeeze it in. So we thought we would be nice to put it at the back of issue 2 for everybody. So look forward to that.
And I think you mentioned before, like off recording, that volume 2 was going to be somewhat smaller than volume 2 was going to be somewhat smaller than volume 1.
Probably, we're not 100% sure yet. We haven't written the entire thing out, but I'm thinking it's going to be a little bit smaller. I think Volume 1 is going to be about 114 pages, and we're ballparking Volume 2 to be around 85 to 90 pages. So not a huge difference, but it might be a little bit shorter. If it is, we'll definitely have those other pages to fill it in.
Okay, and by the time you have both volumes out, do you think that somewhere down the line have you guys talked about perhaps making a mega volume that contains everything once both are finished?
Yes, we talked about that. We'll see how the first 2 issues sell. If people want something like that, we're certainly not averse to going back and doing it.
Okay, then. Excellent. And so, by the way, so back earlier, you mentioned that Frank Parr was one of the first individuals who started drawing your characters, and I noticed that in the past he's drawn the Polar Yeti, Atomic Rex, and Chimera. Would you say that his depictions of your characters have influenced all future fan depictions of your characters?
I would say definitely yes. In fact, I was just looking at my webpage the other day at all the fan fiction that's really grown on there. By the way, thank you to everybody, because I know a lot of them come from your show, who send me fan pictures, fan artwork. I love it, and I put it all on my website, my Facebook page. But yes, I would say Frank's depiction of Atomic Rex and Chimera in particular have really influenced the way that other people draw them going forward, which is great, because Frank has really listened to what I said, how I picture Atomic Rex, and even more so how I picture Chimera, and taken that and really brought it to life, because I totally lack the skill to do it myself in terms of drawing. And Frank has done a tremendous job with that.
Definitely, yeah. Like, when I look at the armor pattern, I especially love his take on Atomic Rex, where he really gives your character a very unique style, and makes him something other than just a Godzilla homage, where I love the combination of like the dark green with the lime green, and that seems to be a color palette that other artists have taken, like the guy from Kaiju Assault, or even the person who did that wonderful like almost painting like depiction of Atomic Rex versus Godzilla.
Yes, yeah.
Like, if you look at that, you can see that's Frank's color scheme, along with the armor, the scaly, almost like knight-like armor, layered armored appearance.
Yeah, which Frank did a great job. I always picture Atomic Rex having that kind of like alligator-ish type armor, and Frank really got the idea down and brought it together fantastically. And yeah, I totally agree. I think that Rochelle did that Godzilla picture you're talking about. I think our good friend Andrew Battaglia did an Atomic Rex.
Right, with like a very much more like a fleshy colored like underbelly.
Yes. Yeah, that came out really good. And then other depictions of Atomic Rex have come from what Frank had drawn as well. I also like the way he draws Polar Yeti, where it looks much...
With the blue skin, right? Or grayish blue skin.
Yeah, the grayish blue skin and kind of like a humpback almost that comes up behind his head.
Yeah.
Looks really good. So I've always been very pleased with the way he does those things. And yeah, he really brought my characters to life, and I can never thank him enough for that. And to see in this comic is really good. And Frank, one thing I was really pleased about is he didn't shy away from doing the level of violence that we typically see in an Atomic Rex story.
Oh, really?
No, he really captured it. It's something we talked about for a while, going back and forth, the three of us, and it was like, well, this is going to be an Atomic Rex story, at least on the Atomic Rex side. We need to have that kind of level of violence that appears in the stories rather than novels for Atomic Rex. Mm-hmm. So Frank did a great job with coloring those and everything else. In fact, one thing I've got quite a few people have written to me about on my Facebook page or whatever is at the end of Atomic Rex Book 2, it ends with Atomic Rex charging to fight a giant jaguar that's been mutated, as a lot of monsters in his universe are. And people are like, well, I really want to see what happened in that fight. And now you'll get to see it in all its gory glory.
Nice.
So look forward to that.
Sounds great. And I've just been looking at some other pieces of fan art. I noticed Gabe TKE? He did a version of Godzilla, Atomic Rex versus Godzilla 2000 with Millennium in the background. Let's see. There was a recent fan art of Zilla Jr. versus Atomic Rex. And you can clearly see Frank's influence on both of those depictions of Atomic Rex.
Yes.
Let's see. Anything else? You ever thought of asking Frank to do like a standalone piece for The Rock?
Yes, I think not The Rock as in Dwayne Johnson.
Right.
Although, why not, Frank? If you want to do a standalone picture of Dwayne Johnson, I'm a big fan. So go ahead.
Just do like another Rampage tribute of The Rock with Polar Yeti.
There we go. In fact, Frank, just bring it. As The Rock would say. So. I totally did The Rock no justice there. But yes, I have, because Frank was the first person to draw The Rock with more of the steel wings that I wanted him to have. And the cover for the novel, it didn't exactly come out the way that I pictured it. But Frank was the one who, when I told him it's more cybernetic and it's got more like steel wings and the neck's a bit more elongated, he really did a great job with that. And the one of the ones that we used for the first Shuwatch title card, I think that you and I did together.
That was like the first one where it really did look like something out of like what was described in the book.
Yes,
I mean,
and then it was
not to toot my own horn here, but it's like, yes, I was me. I helped bring him to life. No.
No, you certainly did. You helped out with
it was going to happen eventually.
Yeah. And then Tyler really got it down. So we used Frank's the kind of base what Tyler did for the new shirt on How I Pictured the Rock. So Tyler really brought that. Tyler Souls, who does Durantis, I should clarify, did that, and it came together really well. But yeah, Frank and I have worked together for a couple years now on different things, and he's a super chill dude, and I really like working with him. And Wayne Smith was a big help too, as I'm sure you know, because let's do another segue. You're writing your own comic. Comic writing is significantly different from prose writing, which I'm used to, where you have to describe almost like a play, like what the person is seeing so that the artist can put it in. And Wayne Smith was a huge help to me in that, I have to say. Him and Chris Martinez, because before Chris got sick, he was like, oh yeah, man, I'll show you how to do that. So the two of them were a great help to me, and I can never thank them enough either.
Oh yeah, I learned that a lot when creating my own Draco Zool comic, that you need to be as descriptive as possible, not in sort of like a literary sense, but more of a not like in a very artsy sense, but more of like a literal sense, where you have to explain where everything is. You have to explain the entire composition of the panel, and not just leave it up to the artist to interpret everything, because it may end up being different from what you originally envisioned in your mind.
Exactly. And
you also need to be very confident with your vision if you want to get it across exactly how you have what you have in mind. At first, I know a lot of people may seem very hesitant to tell artists what to do, but that's what they're there for. They're there to do what you want to do.
Yeah, which Frank was very clear about and made me feel much more confident and comfortable with. Where at first I didn't want to like step on his toes, you know, especially
because I had the same idea when I first started working with Tyler.
Right. And he was like, no, tell me what you want. Be very specific. Tell me, like, you want it to look kind of from this angle or from that angle. Like, some shots I wanted, like, looking up at Atomic Rex as he's fighting a monster, and some I wanted, like, in more of a panoramic type of view. And he really captured them all. And he even did cool things, like, I shared some of this on Facebook, where, like, when Atomic Rex first appears, he's actually shattering the frame of the page around him, which I thought, that's really cool. So.
Yeah. Well, that's a cool way of like being able to play around with the comic medium.
Mm-hmm. And that stuff I can't do in a novel that Frank was able to really help me capture from that perspective. Right. And I'm a big fan of his Arrakis character too, he and Wayne. Another kind of Godzilla homage, I would say. So this is really nice. Like, there's been a lot of talk about what if one version of Godzilla fought another version of Godzilla. So this is another, like, now let's be clear, I know, and yours and mine, our favorite Godzilla homage is Dorgon, so let's throw it out there first. You let me know it all the time. But this is a very cool two big fans of Godzilla taking their Godzilla homages and having them collide. And I think the neat thing about it is that their Arrakis has more of a show feel to him, where Godzilla has more of a Heisei, Atomic Rex has more of a Heisei Godzilla feel to him. So it's kind of like if these two versions of Godzilla crossed over, what would be the case?
Right. Let's see. You know what? I was scrolling through Google Images right now looking for fan art, I came across this piece of Atomic Rex versus the what was your Gamera homage's character?
Oh, Torturus?
Torturus, yeah. Oh, like Tartarus. Okay. Have you seen this piece I just shared with you on Skype?
No, I've never seen that. Where'd you find that at?
I just Googled Atomic Rex and I found it in the results.
Oh, I'll have to go find that one and add it to my page. And did it say who did it?
Let's see. Yeah, we can totally share it. It was by someone. I'm not sure how to say this. Itorchidu, something like that. Itorchedu. He's done a lot. It's like a pencil sketch of Atomic Rex with Torturus. Well, sorry, what was it again? Torturus. Okay. Yeah, it's the first time I've ever seen fan art of Torturus before, but it looks really nice.
Yeah, me too. It's really cool.
Yeah, maybe we can use that as a basis for future depictions of Torturus.
Yeah, I think we should. It's actually very close to how I have him pictured. It's fantastic. So good job. I tortured you. I'm sorry we're butchering your name, but very cool. I like this a lot. Please, if you have you can send it to me so I get a very clear version. I'll put it up on the Facebook page and my webpage.
Sweet, man. And let's see. I'm sure there's plenty of other... as your character continues to grow in popularity and continues to spread all over the internet, that there are sure to be more pieces of fan art out there waiting to be discovered by you.
Yeah. In fact, somebody just put together a really cool DVD cover of like Atomic Rex versus Kong and posted it. You sent it to me, I think, right?
Right, I did.
Yeah, that was awesome for the people that did that. So I appreciate
totally.
that. And if you do something like that, guys, please let me know. I'm thrilled to see fan art, and it'll pop up, and I'll make sure to promote it. So please let me know if you do any fan art. You can contact me through the webpage at MatthewDenny.com or on Facebook, like I always say. So, yes, please send me your fan art.
And, and you can totally reach out, Matthew Denny, via Facebook or even Instagram.
Yeah, and I get back to you. I get back to everybody who writes to me, so please do.
And let's see. I think there was something else that I want to mention. Let's see. What was it? Oh, there was something I wanted to bring up earlier that was related to Kaiju versus Cancer in terms of collaborators. We haven't directly collaborated with this individual, but his name is Atlas Zilla. This is an individual who made like a custom theme for Kaiju versus Cancer. And so we promoted his music that he made for us on, he or she, not sure at the moment. We promoted what the individual made for us and put it up on the Facebook page. And I think this person also made a second piece of music for us. I think right after we promoted our Rampaging Against Cancer shirt.
Oh, did he? I haven't seen it yet or heard it.
Let's see if I can find it right here because I want to bring him up after we mentioned Denny, but then we started talking about Frank Parr's work. Let's see. Almost there. Yeah, here we go. KVC Rampaging Against Cancer Remastered. And the individual's YouTube channel is the same as what he or she uses for Facebook. ATLISZILLA. Yep, so I'll just send you the link right here, and you can listen to it once we're done with the podcast.
Fantastic.
And let's see. So I wanted to mention, going back to Frank Parr, you mentioned before that, did you met him in person first at G-Fest, or did you met him online first when he approached you with his fan art?
Pretty sure I met him at G-Fest first. In that I was in the Artist Alley, so Frank was a contact there. So I just kind of walked over and introduced myself to him, so I knew who I was the first year I was at G-Fest. And then he came around and he was like, oh, let me buy one of your books. And I think he bought two of my books, Chimera and Atomic Rex. And then he started sending me the fan art just because he's a cool guy. And it was from there that I became friends with Wayne, who does a lot of the writing for Frank. And I'm pretty sure it was Frank who came up with the idea to said, let's do this crossover. So we did it, and it's been a lot of fun, and I hope the fans enjoy it as much as we have. So.
Absolutely. And so when it comes to the collaboration between your Atomic Rex and his Irakis, how would you describe the basic premise of the comic?
Oh, good idea. Yes. So the comic works out in this sense where Frank and Wayne have a character called the Small Man who operates in their universe with Arrakis. And in his first book, it's kind of unclear exactly what this guy's doing. Is he trying to get Arrakis to destroy the world? Is he trying to warn people? He's very incoherent. He talks like Yoda. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like that backwards talk almost. So what it turns out is that Frank and Wayne establishes very early in the new crossover that we have that his brother is trying to bring basically what's King Ghidorah in their universe to Earth to destroy it. And his brother makes the claim that he has destroyed other worlds and one of the worlds he shows the small man is Atomic Rex's world. So the premise of the story is that trying to outsmart his brother, the small man says, like, well, I know that you're bringing this King Kaiju, the two-headed monster who appeared on the Kaiju vs. Cancer shirt, to destroy his Earth, and that Arrakis is there, but the small man, to tip the balance in favor of defeating King Kaiju, says, well, I'm going to go get Atomic Rex and bring him here as well. And that turns out maybe not to be the best idea, because as people who've read my books know, Atomic Rex is not necessarily a hero by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, he's largely responsible for destroying his Earth. So what he perceived is like the most powerful monster there would come and help as like a defender of Earth doesn't necessarily work out that way, because that's just not what Atomic Rex does. So we get a little bit of the small man on Atomic Rex's Earth, trying to kind of track him down and seeing what Atomic Rex has been doing in between Polar Yeti and Chimera. Then there's another story with some of Frank's monsters and Wayne's monsters going on that Arrakis is drawn into, and it leads into the small man bringing Atomic Rex to Arrakis's Earth, which, of course, as soon as Atomic Rex sees other monsters, he feels to destroy them and establish his dominance, and Arrakis isn't having any of that. So that's basically where the story goes. It's one of those, I'm going to bring this guy over to help. Good intentions turn out horribly wrong. Because, I mean, how often do they bring two monsters together and it works out? To seem like one where the humans' plans shouldn't work out if they do that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so it seems like this is a story where several parties are involved with this, all trying to outdo each other by bringing in more destructive pain and misery into the world, which only makes things worse for everybody.
Correct. And we play with things too where, like in Atomic Rex's world, just by walking around and giving off radiation, he mutates animals and plants around him, which is not something they've seen in the Arrakis universe before. So you get some of that. And then it was fun too, where I haven't really done a whole lot with like space monsters in the Atomic Rex series, but I was able to bring those a little bit in with Frank and Wayne series, because it fits much better in there. So see how Atomic Rex would interact with some of those characters. And then the heroes, of course, that Frank and Wayne have from their Arrakis series. They have like a group of government agents who are supposed to like kind of keep an eye on what the monsters are. Kind of like a monarch is the best way to describe them, I guess. And we get their perspective of what's going on as well.
Okay. And so when it came to the production of this comic, what was it like, first off, what was it like producing, writing for a comic, given that this is your second experience after the collaboration you did with, the short collaboration you did with Christopher Martinez? And also, what was it like co-writing this comic, given that, once again, this is the second time you've done it?
Writing it, I really had to grow more, because we only did like a 5-page thing with Chris, and he was super helpful. And like I would write something, and Chris was like, we're going to twist this up a little bit and do it this way. And it just became very obvious that the changes Chris wanted to make for the comic book medium were the way to go. So that came out really easily. Working with Frank and Wayne, it was good. We had a lot of fun doing it. It took a lot more research, because the one nice thing about doing Dorgon with Chris, his story is that like you can't really screw up Dorgon, because it's like his thing anyway is that he's kind of like offbeat and the things don't flow in canon.
It's very intangible in that, much like the Godzilla series, Dorgon is meant to exist in a universe as a fictional character where other people have played around with him. So it's like there is no definitive version of Dorgon.
Right. In this case, it took a lot more, because like I'd have an idea, and then it wouldn't necessarily jive with how Frank and Wayne saw their characters going forward. Like it would have been not where their characters they wanted him to end up. So that wasn't a bad thing. It just was a matter of us like working out like, okay, how's your character going forward, and how can we fit this character in there? So when we got it together, we took a few stops and starts, and we went in a few directions that we had to go back and kind of retcon them. The good thing was that like it's easy to put Atomic Rex into a situation, because he pretty much operates the same way anywhere, where he just wants to dominate whatever's around him or destroy it. So he was an easy character to utilize, as opposed to say like a Chimera, who's got a lot more going on, and there's a lot more human interaction there. So
right. And so, like, how much of the comic would you say was written by you? Was it like a strict, like, 50-50 between half of it was yours and the other half was Wayne and Frank's?
Yeah, pretty much. It was a straight up 50-50 where I would write my part and Wayne would write his part, and then we would go back and interlace them. So, yeah, it's definitely a 50-50 with the two stories shifting back and forth, not just kind of keeping tabs on what the other one was doing. That seemed to be the best way to do it. Like, here's kind of the overall structure, and then we'll each fill in our own sections. That way there wasn't the fear of too much of screwing up what the other person was doing, which was a new experience for me. When Chris and I did it, the story together, it was like we just worked on it together all the way through. But for this project, it is worked out better for Wayne and I to both kind of work separately and then just check in to make sure the story jives together. I also think one thing that did well is it really got a hold of my way to tell a story and Wayne's way to tell a story, and they're slightly different, where I think it'll be refreshing for the reader to see, like, okay, here's the perspective of how one author is telling it, and here's the perspective about how another author is telling it.
Okay. And would you say there were any sort of like benefits or drawbacks from working in this fashion?
It took us a little longer than we would have liked because when we weren't directly on top of each other, like I would write a part, then Wayne would write a part, and then until like the one of us was able to catch up with the other one, in some cases it was a little bit more difficult to get that next piece done because you weren't 100% sure where the other person was going. But we were able to bring it together pretty nicely.
Okay, then. And let's see. So, do you know how much this comic will end up being, both at G-Fest and when it's eventually being sold online, distributed online?
I think that the print version is going to be around $20. I'll know for sure by G-Fest, so it'll be posted there. It's being printed today, so we'll know for sure when the final print's done. I'm not sure how much the digital is going to cost yet either, but it should be around that price, I'm guessing. It is 114 pages, so it's a like more of a graphic novel than a comic book.
Okay. And do you know where people can buy this if they can't go to G-Fest?
Yes, it'll be available on Amazon. It will be available through Dragonfly Studios, which is Wayne and Frank's publishing company, and then it'll be available through me at MatthewDenny.com or at Facebook. So you can pay me through PayPal if you get in touch with me, and I'll be happy to sign a copy, ship it out to you. If you want Wayne and Frank to sign a copy and ship it out to you, you can get in touch with them as well. And we're going to work on like having us all sign a few copies, and we just haven't worked out how we're going to sell those yet. So.
Okay. And I see Frank Parr's first Iroquois book on Amazon right now as at $19.99 for paperback and $9.99 for the Kindle edition.
Yes, that should be about what it's going to be because that book is like 112 pages, I think.
Okay. So Iroquois, I noticed that he's titled his book Kaijuverse Book 1. Will this count as Kaijuverse Book 2?
I want to say yes, it will. It's part of the Kaiju-verse. I think they have another book that was printed too, but it's not necessarily book 2. It's more like an add-on. It's when you and I were talking about this off air before we got on. And so I think their other book is kind of like Rogue One to Star Wars, where it's not necessarily book 2, but it's in the same universe. So I believe this will be Kaiju-verse book 2. Yes.
Okay, then. Oh, by the way, I keep forgetting to mention this to you, but since we're talking about Amazon, on 2 occasions, because of my recent searches on Amazon, I would sometimes get Amazon would send me email featuring recommendations of what they think I would be interested in based on what I've been searching. And on 2 occasions, I've actually gotten recommendations specifically for Atomic Rex and your other novels.
Oh, good. I appreciate that.
Yeah. In fact, I want to see if I can share this with you I'm going to try Facebook right now. But while I'm looking on this, also on the subject of Amazon, or specifically a program related to Amazon, that being Audible.com. So in the between your last appearance and now, you actually got your first audiobook your first the first time you had a novel adapted into an audiobook. Is that right?
That's correct. Atomic Rex, the first Atomic Rex, is available through Audible now. I think it's like $4.99, but it's apparently been selling pretty well. So that was really cool. The guy who reads it sounds like James Woods, which is interesting. It came to, yeah, I was hoping you'd be able to read it, but Audible had their own plans. Oh, the guy does a great job, though. I don't mean to come down on him. But it's very cool.
No. I actually looked at his, apparently you can actually look at the narrators, the individual narrators on Audible, and you can see that the people on Audible actually have their own, you can like pick on their name, and then you can see all the books that they've narrated for. And this guy definitely has quite a lot of experience.
Yeah, he did a fine job. So for anybody who's really busy and likes to listen to books as they drive around or whatever, please check out the first Atomic Rex on Audible.
Yeah, and in fact, there is actually a free trial where you can download like 1 or 2 audiobooks for free, and so that's your chance to check out Atomic Rex if you have never even tried Audible.com, which is a fantastic program. I do plan on getting the audiobook for myself, since I have previously read, quote unquote, read or listened through The Disaster Artist, My Life Inside the Room, Jurassic Park, Ready Player One, and Jeremy Robinson's Net Project Nemesis.
Who?
You know, this guy, he made a giant monster girl. I don't know. I hear there is a movie or something made. You may have heard of this character's name. I don't know. It seems that the people, Jeremy Robinson seems to think that this character's a bit of a big deal. I don't know. It's debatable.
I'll have to check it out then.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with his work. No. Of course, Jeremy's the inspiration for my work, and he's a friend, and he's a really cool guy, and we've worked together before. So, if anytime my name comes up in the same sentence as his, I take it as a huge compliment, even if it's Matt Denyon sucks compared to Jeremy Robinson. It's like, at least that's put in there. So,
thanks for comparing me.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you mentioned before that for writers who want to get their novels onto Audible, that Audible has their own selection of people that they already work with.
Yeah, I actually don't know a whole lot about the Audible process. Apparently, Audible saw Atomic Rex and it was doing well enough that they contacted Severed Press to purchase Atomic Rex for Audible. So, and then I didn't really deal with Audible at all. I just kind of went, Severed Press let me know that they were doing it, and that they would handle all the expenses and payments and everything. So I was like, oh, okay, sounded good to me. Yeah, I've been very pleased with the way it came out. I downloaded it myself and been listening to it again. So it came out well.
Is there any sort of feelings that you have having listened to someone else read your novel? Yeah,
the only kind of weird thing is when you're reading a book in your head, you have voices planned out for everybody, and it's just I don't want to say it's odd, but it was different to hear a male narrator doing the female parts of the story. But I guess that's like for any book, just because in my head I always picture or hear like a girl's voice, but I don't think it would have worked to have had like a girl reading a girl's voice like a play. It wouldn't have come off right.
I think at that point you would call it an audio drama.
Right, which it wasn't intended to be. So that was the only kind of, I don't say, it was just not what I was thinking, having read so many books, just from text to hear it on Audible. So, but it came out well. I was very pleased with it.
Yeah, okay, so this was like a one-time payment deal. It's not like you're going to see revenue from future purchases of the audiobook?
Oh, no, every time somebody downloads it, I get a payment for it. So please download it, people. Okay.
All right, then. And let's see. Anything else to go over? Because we talked about the Atomic Rex, Iroquois X Atomic Rex, Avatars of the Apocalypse. We talked about Rampage Against Cancer, Denny's Prince, the updates with Kaiju vs. Cancer. You recently, I believe last week, released your latest novel, which was ironically what spurred this latest episode of Shuwatch, and that was formerly Operation Meg, now Operation Megalodon, right? Which is like the spiritual / technical follow up to Operation Rock.
Yes, it's. I've had a lot of fans because for people who haven't read Rock yet, Operation Rock is the book that when people read it by me, it's the kind of the most acclaimed one. Even if you look at the reviews online, it bears out that same information. So I've had a lot of requests to do a follow-up to Rock, and I finally got around to doing it. It'll carry over some of the characters from Operation Rock. If you haven't read Operation Rock, you can read Operation Megalodon without losing a beat. The premise of the story carrying over is that the terrorists have captured the world's cryptids. In this case, we're looking at the sea monsters. So I had to do a lot of research. I reached out to quite a few cryptozoologists who were it was actually really cool. Quite a few cryptozoologists from different books and such, and they were more than happy to talk to me about like, oh, you should use this sea monster for your book, and you should use this sea monster for your book. And they pointed me into some really kind of diverse ones in the backgrounds of them all, which is really kind of fun and interesting. So I used our friend Trey the Explainer a lot, who I know you follow on YouTube too. He was like super helpful.
Did you actually talk to him?
Just in terms of messages, I didn't talk to him, but he was kind enough to get back to me. I did talk to a few other people who would publish books and are out there every day studying cryptids and such. So it was interesting to get a perspective on their view of things. It was also interesting, just a quick side note, because Trey the Explainer, I'm sure you have a lot of fans, or yours and his too. He's kind of like approaches from a skeptical.
Always, yeah.
Yeah, which is cool. So he takes like a skeptical approach to the monsters and explains what they are. And then to hear more people who are taking more of they believe this to be an actual creature was very cool to hear from both of them. But to hear both perspectives gave me a very good idea of what I wanted to do with the monsters. So monsters like Trunko, who was supposedly this like hairy whale lobster with an elephant trunk that fought two orcas off the coast of South Africa, makes an appearance. Monsters,
right. Which turned out to be most, according to Trey. I saw Trey's video on Trunko, and it turned out to be most potentially like the rotting corpse of a shark, because when the shark decomposes, their skin is made out of this like different sort of material that turns out that looks like fuzzy material that gives it that like furry appearance.
Yeah, which Trey was really good. I watched the video a bunch and messaged a little bit about it, so that was really cool. Caddy, who you probably know, being from California, right? The Cadborosaurus. They apparently appears in the San Francisco Bay quite often.
We have a dinosaur in San Francisco.
Supposedly, yeah. Take it for what it's worth. I don't want to shoot at anybody who's a big fan of these real life cryptids or put any credence into what people might have misseen. So I'll leave it up to the fans to decide. But yeah, apparently the Cadborosaurus from San Francisco Bay. So come on. Check it out, man. That's your home state. You got to be on top of these things, and know what's out there.
The only one I was familiar with was the Chupacabra near the Mexican border, which turned out to be usually like hairless dogs with mange.
Yeah, or Denny.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens too. But Caddy makes an appearance. There's one that figures in heavily to the story. Is more of a mythical creature, but there have been a few people who have claimed to have seen him. Was the Shoto from Japan. So I don't know if you've heard about this character or not. But basically, it was like an aquatic ape, like a sea ape theory. But what I wanted to use him for was a stand-in for Garia from War of the Gargantuas. It feels that similar. And the premise of the story is that in order to stop these characters, the government has captured some great white sharks. They have enlarged them and given them cybernetic enhancements so that their fins are coated with diamond and then steel on top of it, as well as they've been given things like the electric shocks that an eel can do. And two pilots will sync with them, sort of like they did in Rock, and it carries over Tobias Crow, who was one of the main characters from Rock, and his love interest, Tracy Curry, who had created the system that they used to sync with giant monsters. The Rocks do make an appearance for you Rock fans out there in a couple of the chapters, so you'll see the Rocks back in action briefly. And the premise that carries over again is that it's not the ability of these pilots to use machines or to fly an airplane or to fly a submarine that makes them work with the animals well or the monsters. It's their ability to build interpersonal relationships because the brain is like a muscle. If you use a certain part of it, it becomes stronger. So I wanted to focus on they have to build their own interpersonal relationships in order to get these monsters to sync with them better, to operate better when fighting against these cryptids, these two giant sharks that are utilized. And one of the things that's played with a lot is that Crow and Curry just started a relationship at the end of Operation Rock, and now two people who aren't necessarily good at being involved in a relationship, literally the fate of the world depends on them not only performing in these high-stress combat situations, but building their relationship. So for anybody out there who's just started a new relationship, and you know how like it can be both great and it can be scary at the same time, and you're always afraid you're going to screw up, or if you're trying to do something right and you do screw up, those things kind of play into this, but then is reflected in the fact that the megs that they're syncing with don't perform as well because of it. So it's like added extra pressure onto it.
Okay then. So it sounds like you definitely got like a lot of a lot of the ideas with your from your book planned out when you were planning on scripting out or planning on how the story was going to go.
Yeah, it took a lot of like research in terms of the cryptids, and then in terms of how I wanted the characters to continue to develop as well. But a lot of those themes were explored in Operation Rock and then carry over into this, which is when people do read it, that's what they seem to like the most about it, and that it's a good monster story. So anybody who's read my books know for any of my books you get a ton of monster action, but this might be the best character study. It's where I really try to do character studies of the characters in the novels.
Okay, so the returning characters, they will also have their own story arcs that continue to progress them as well?
Yes, the other characters who carry over from Rock, you see what they're up to too and how they've been progressing. I try not to beat it over the head again. If you haven't read Rock, it's okay, but you definitely will see, for fans of Rock, you'll see how Bixby and Monroe ended up, you'll see how Mackenzie and Gillian Crean ended up, and definitely for Tobias Crow and Tracy Curry to be the main characters of Megalodon, picking up and going forward.
Okay, that's good.
And the Rocks too. See how the Rocks end up too.
Okay, that's good, because I notice like usually whenever characters, especially characters who become couples by the end of their story, they don't really get any sort of development beyond that. It's like, especially in like sequels, where luckily these characters, they don't seem to be the stars of their own of Operation Megalodon. It seems like you have new protagonists.
Yes.
But I've noticed there's like an annoying trend I've seen where whenever you bring characters who become a couple by the end of the first story, by the next story there's something there to break them up, so you don't get to see them develop as a couple.
No, you get to see in the Operation Rock, it was Bixby and Monroe who kind of had to come to this realization, and they improve their relationship. But you see how that carries over into Operation Megalodon, and how their ability to grow in terms of being able to trust each other and as people is reflected in how they're able to use the rocks much more effectively in this book than, say, the two main protagonists are able to use the Megs, because they're still in that early stages of their relationship.
Okay, sounds great then. And let's see. So where can people find Operation Megalodon now?
It's available on Amazon right now. You can download it. It's July 10th today. The digital version's out now. The paperback version should be out by like July 12th. Probably by the time this recording's up, it'll be out in both versions on Amazon.
Great.
You can also purchase it from severedpress.com.
All right, excellent. And so since you talked about what was the basic premise of Iroquois versus Atomic Rex, what is the overall basic premise for Operation Megalodon, and how would you describe the new characters who are taking over for this book?
Well, Tobias Crow is physically, he looks kind of like Jimi Hendrix, just because I think Jimi Hendrix is one of the coolest people ever. But he's also a Air Force pilot, like a special forces type of guy. So he's always been somebody who's dependent on himself. And one of the things that he is struggling with is, because of his role in Operation Rock, he was looked at as a hero. And in Operation Megalodon, the sea cryptids has kind of shut down worldwide shipping, which, if it was to happen in the real world, would be a huge problem. Like, we don't even think about, I had to do a lot of research on this too, how much things we depend on international shipping for: food, medicine, gasoline, propane, all kinds of things, that if we were to lose that kind of first step in getting stuff from where it's raw materials to us, would be a big problem. So with people already being afraid of monsters attacking, they're losing jobs, they're losing income, they're losing heat for their homes, stuff like that. And they need kind of like a hero. So Crow is put in this position because he was a big factor in Operation Rock, but he's woefully underprepared for it because he's like a loner and wants to keep to himself. And being in the spotlight is crushing him almost as much as the responsibility of trying to save the world and start a new relationship, which he's not good at. So it's an interesting study from his part. And then for Tracy Curry, who invented the system that they used to sync with the Rocks and the Megs, I work as a teacher, as you know, and this is like going to sound a little self-aggrandizing, but we'll see a lot of it's tough sometimes to be one of the limited members of one sex in the field that's dominated by another sex. Mm-hmm. So in Tracy's case, the field of science is dominated predominantly by men, although there are plenty of qualified women scientists out there. But from Tracy's perspective, she's always had to kind of be better than everybody else because she's an attractive female on top of being a scientist. So men are intimidated by her in her field based on the fact that she's not only good at it, but she's also attractive. That's not a problem for me. I'm good at my job, but I'm not attractive. So that doesn't reflect for me in that case. So,
okay then.
And then it kind of goes from there. Then they have to sync with the Megs. And one thing that I found really interesting in terms about another research for this was what it would be like to experience
the first person perspective of a shark.
Yes, thank you. The first one perspective of the shark. It's 2:00 where I'm at. I'm tired.
That's okay. We'll wrap things up very quickly after this.
Thanks. Sorry. But yes, the perspective of what it's like to be a shark. So especially in terms of using their ability to sense things through the way that electricity moves through the water. Mm-hmm. And I try to kind of cover that with how Daredevil is described as seeing things, from the comic books, in that sense. So that was kind of neat, and how that would have an effect on your mind if you were perceiving things that way. And one really neat thing, too, to perceive was for people who are sinking with a shark to remember that they have to breathe underwater without drowning, and that they can't go to the surface because they'll screw things up for them too. So
that'd be an interesting challenge to look into. So do these sharks have any sort of technological gadgetry in their bodies like the Rocks did?
No, I tried to downtone it a little bit because one of the premises of the stories was that the Rocks were a long ongoing project prior to the events of Operation Rock. In this case, the Megs were really kind of slapped together quickly because they needed something to deal with the situation, basically because the Rocks can't fight something that's underwater because they're birds. So in this case, it was more of let's rush, get these things out. We need something to combat this threat as soon as possible. So it's a little bit more stripped down in terms of the Megs do have the ability to use their fins and their tails to cut into their opponents, and then they also do have the electric eel ability, so they get close to something, they can electrocute it. But what it really made for is that the Megs have to coordinate their attacks. And we call them Megs, for the story is known as they're known as Monster Extermination Group in the story, or MEG for short. Like in Operation Rock, it's Retaliation on Cryptids. We were going to call the book, like you'd mentioned, Operation Meg. Right, but we didn't want Steve Elton to sue us, so we said we'll just drop it. We'll go Megalodon.
If you weren't afraid of that, that would have been a great way to capitalize on the Meg movie coming out.
Right. Well, still, if you like to make a movie, pick up my book. Sharks are always cool in the summer. Just throwing it out there. So, and I got to go back and watch a lot of fun shark movies to look into this. Like Bait is really cool. Just throwing that out there. If anybody's never seen it.
Did you happen to research the most important piece of shark media, Shark Attack 3, Megalodon?
Of course. Shark Attack 3, Megalodon. You can't not do Sharknado in this day and age, right? Sharktopus. Take your pick of any
three-headed shark, four-headed shark, six-headed shark, land sharks.
Land sharks. Although I hadn't seen the Shallows. I saw the Shallows is pretty cool, actually. So.
Okay, then. So let's see. But thank you very much for sharing all of that information. It's great to know that we'll be able to get our chance to check out your latest literary adventure or literary escapade, both in digital and in physical formats.
Yes, and real quick question for you. And you're working on your comic as well, are you not?
Yes. Unfortunately, I had originally planned to have my comic book ready, which is the giant robot comic, Primal Warrior Draco Azul, ready by this year's G Fest. Unfortunately, at the rate my team has been going, while we could have finished it in time for G Fest, it would have had us work right down to like the very last minute and would have required a lot of rushing, and I didn't want to do that for my team. I wanted to give them as much time as possible to and give us time to not only finish it but to look over every single bit of work, to make sure we don't have any like major screw ups along the way. So I decided to delay the release of the comic book so that we'd be able to release it sometime hopefully within the third or fourth quarter of 2018. And meanwhile, I've been talking to several other creators in the hopes of getting Dracozel involved in other ventures, such as Gorian's video game, upcoming RPG game, Daikaiju Daikasen, which is, so far you can get the free, you can go to, I believe it's either Gorian's Planet, either Gorian's Universe or Planet G. You can go over to Planet. I think he mostly updates on Planet G. So you can go over to Planet G on Facebook, and you can download the demo from there to get a feel for it, of the game itself, which he's been working on ever since he recently completed his own comic book based on his original Godzilla-inspired monster Nagorayar, which I actually had a hand in making by being the book's editor. Which you can also check that out on Gorian's website. What's it called? Let's see. I know I had it saved under bookmarks. It was so you can find Nagorayar, Kingdom of the Monsters, Volume 1, under the website kproductions.co.th, because it's a Thai website, but it's most of the website is in English. Not perfect English, but serviceable enough for you to understand what to do. And if there's any information that's in Thai, you can easily use Google Translate to navigate your way through it. Anyways, I've also been collaborating with Brandon from Kaiju Assault, I believe, which you have actually collaborated with last year's G-Fest by having several of your own monsters available as like an expansion pack to use in the Kaiju Assault video game, in the Kaiju Assault card game, I mean.
They've actually signed me, real quick, they've just told me they want to do a second Denian release, so I have a whole new crew of monsters coming out for that, like Kaiju Core and Operation Meg, and I forget what else they wanted, but they're doing a second Denian wave attachment to go into their game. So
sweet. Maybe we can also get Torturous, by the way.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And let's see. And so I've already started planning, been talking with Tyler Souls, my comics artist, to make artwork for the card game once Brandon and his team is getting ready to collaborate in August. Because I know up to this point, they've been focusing on making original monsters from the ground up, while also asking me to get some help in translating their names into Japanese, which I was more than happy to do so.
Oh, cool.
And so they've been focusing on doing their original monsters, and so after July, so in August, then they're going to be ready to start collaborating with people like you and me and getting our characters involved in the game. So you'll be able to get a sneak preview of the future monsters that Draco Azul will be going up against in hopefully future issues of the comic book series. And hopefully yes?
Can we mention the other brief thing we were trying to do? Draco Azul and My Steel Samurai, and another monster from a friend of ours.
Oh, yes.
It's for a good cause.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
So you and I had talked about doing this, as your listeners know by now. Our good dear friend Chris Martinez, unfortunately, is battling cancer. Mm-hmm. So in addition to Kaiju versus Cancer, which goes to the hospital, we've been trying to do separate fundraisers to help out Chris in his battle with cancer. So after you and I saw Ready Player One, where there's this kind of cool scenes where you get both the Iron Giant and Gundam fighting Mechagodzilla, we had come up with the idea of taking Chris's Mecha Triceras and having it kind of like recreate a scene where Draco Azul and Steel Samurai are fighting against him. And we have a couple of different artists in mind who might be doing this artwork for us. But when it's available, we're going to send the proceeds to Chris to help him in his fight with cancer. So of all the collaborations you and I have done, that might be the most important one, I feel like.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I can't wait to see how this would turn out. So far, tentatively, we're thinking about opening up like a Society 6 account and selling like variations of this artwork whenever it gets completed through there.
Yeah, so stay tuned. I think it should be out hopefully by the third quarter of this year as well. So we shall see.
Because
but that'll be a lot of fun.
Right, because it'll be a very ambitious thing that we're going to have where we definitely want to capture the awesomeness of that fight from the climax of Ready Player One, but it replace all the robots with our robots.
Darn right.
Yeah. So let's see. Other than that, I believe that is all the updates. So yeah, oh, by the way, so in case I haven't made it clear, I will not be attending this year's G-Fest, not just because of the Draco Azul thing, but also because due to personal things in my life. Nothing negative, it's just a matter of priorities. And so while you won't be able to see Matt or I at G-Fest this year, you can be sure to support our project by once again going over to Denny Roth's booth, by checking out any of the Kaiju vs. Cancer prints or any of Matt Danian's other works. And you can also check out Frank Parr's table where you can see their Arrakis X Atomic Rex crossover comic.
Yes, and as far as you and I go, you can look forward to us reviewing the second animated Godzilla movie soon because it'll be out on Netflix.
Godzilla City on the Edge of Boredom.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep my hopes up again. But,
you silly fool, you.
Yeah, it didn't work out so well the first time, but we'll see.
Just imagine like Uncle Phil's laugh from Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
So, in addition to that, are we doing another noir review soon too? Right?
Yes, we haven't picked a movie yet, but I'm thinking because this happens to be the 30th anniversary of Roger Rabbit, it may seem appropriate to make that our next review, even if it's not chronologically our next one on the timeline.
Oh, I've been dying to do Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I'm so in for that, man.
Okay.
So maybe we'll pull an all-nighter and do a double header so we can do the Godzilla one first, and if it's not what I'm hoping for, then we can do the Roger Rabbit one, and I'll feel like a lot better.
Well, we can get rid of like the Godzilla one very quick. Like we'll start off and it's like it's shit. Moving on, Roger Rabbit time.
Yeah, that'll make me feel much better. All right, man. It sounds good.
All right, then. So, as always, you can find me here on the Kaiju Noir channel. Thank you very much, by the way, for helping us reach 4,000 subscribers. Thank you so much, everybody, for supporting the channel, despite me being much more busy around this time of the year. Sorry for not uploading as many videos outside of podcasts and live streams, but I hope that has been enough to at least entertain a good majority of you. But thank you so much for continuing to stick around. Love you all for everything, for being with me all this time, and for the newcomers as well. So hopefully I do have a special video planned in the future. I've been working on it for quite some time, but hopefully I'll get it out soon enough. You can also check out the Primal Warrior Draco Azul Facebook page for all the updates on the comic, as well as follow the Kaiju vs. Cancer Facebook page as well. And you can follow me on Instagram, and you can also find me on what was it? A SoundCloud, where you can find several of the podcasts that Matt, Denny, and I have done. I gotta update it soon to include the Rampage and other movie reviews.
Yes, and if Andres can reach 5K subscribers, it's a big surprise. He has said he will run a 5K in under 16 minutes.
Wait, hold on.
Come on, man. You got to put something out there for your fans.
I guess so. Awesome. Nowadays, every YouTuber's like, let's get us to 5,000, let's get 5,000 likes, and so we can reach 110,000 subscribers. Give us like if we can get like 1 million comments on this video, I'll be doing something really stupid.
Yeah, there you go. 5K, run a 5K. I think that'd be pretty good.
Trust me, man. I did like, what was it, I want to say it was like 19K, and it was like torture on my legs. I couldn't walk for a week.
Oh, dude, yeah. I won't tell you about how bad a shape I am now that I'm closing on 40.
Yeah.
I filled in for a friend in a softball game the other day. I felt pretty good because I hit for the cycle, and then the next day the cycle hit me. Looked like I could barely stand up. So.
Like you got out of bed, as soon as you landed your feet, you toppled over.
Yeah, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's why I stopped playing baseball.
Fuck being old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Where can people find you?
You can find me on Facebook as both Matt Denyon and Matthew Denyon. Of course, like you said, please follow us on Kaiju versus Kaiju if you haven't already done so. And please check out one of the new shirts, the new Rampage shirt. We are very close to raising over $1,000 with this shirt. So if we get a few more people to buy a shirt, we'll clear that, and that'll be a huge help to all those kids. You can also follow me at www.matthewdenyon.com and here on the Kaiju No More channel, right? I mean, I'm here for like every third video at this point. I feel like it's a good thing.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you very much, everybody, for being here with us on another edition of the Shuwatch podcast. I'm thinking at this point I probably had enough of recurring guests. I think it's about time to get someone new for the show. I just got to get off my lazy ass and start reaching out to new people. But anyways, even then, it's still a blast being able to talk to returning guests, especially people I'm very, very familiar with. Someone I'm close friends with, and so thank you very much, man, for being here once again.
Oh, my pleasure. Like I said, I love coming on a show. As long as you want me and the fans are happy to have me, I'll be on as much as you want. But yes, new people will be good too, man. Reach out to that Robinson guy, see if he's interested.
Probably, hopefully. So I was hoping we would get Frank Parr here, and we can Frank Parr or Wayne Smith here, and we can get them to talk about Iroquois, but unfortunately they just weren't available. But who knows what we'll see in the near future. Only time will tell. So until next time, everybody, I have been Andres Perez, aka Kaiju Noir.
I have been Matthew Denyon.
And until next time, everybody, take care. And when in doubt, put Gigan in there! Sorry.
Damn right.
That's a reference to the recent live stream. Prepare to hear more of that until I burn that meme into the ground. See you next time, everybody.